I'm pretty sure that Matt caught a cold this week from being so sick of losing this challenge. What's going on, everyone? Today we're back with the monthly Mayhem build. This is week 4 of the series, the last video before the finale video, which is not going to be next week, but the week after. We're going to give ourselves a little bit of a break between there. Now, if you're not familiar with this series, Matt from the Scale Builders Guild and myself, we take some sort of car, in this case, a Kyosho Inferno GT NITRO edition, and then we try and do something atypical or something that the vehicle's not initially meant to do. And in this version, we're taking this vehicle and trying to turn it into a burnout machine, trying to make the most realistic looking burnout for video while trying to replicate some sort of movie or TV scene. Now, in the last video, I did some running of this thing. Performed pretty good, and I think overall I was happy with the performance. The things that I needed to adjust were appearance-wise. Now, I had taken and put in 7 pounds of stainless weight in the front of this car with these 2 large pieces of stainless rod. Now these 2 pieces of material actually drop or end pieces from machining that we use this material for. So I was able to just pick these up. They're 3.5 pounds each. And in the last video, I had them both on the front bumper, kind of that foam portion in front of the shock towers. And it worked really well to hold the car with the line lock that we've built in there. But what it did is it took so much pressure off the rear. It made for this huge wheel gap in the back, and that was really the main thing that I was concerned with fixing this week. Now, I also had these attached into the vehicle with duct tape and zip ties, and while it was effective, they still kind of moved around a little too much, you know, kind of not holding exactly the position I wanted. And while I could have added more of either of those items to get them stuck in place, I decided that I wanted to design up a couple of mounts. Now, while I was at it, I wanted to remedy that issue with having the rear end droop out and adding these huge wheel gaps back there. So I've adjusted the suspension slightly in the rear to make sure that it sits nicely in the wheel arches. The offset looks proper again on the body. The wheels are more out towards the edge. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these weights and put it back on the front bumper area with a 3D printed mount that I'll start printing this evening. I actually just finished drawing it. Once I'm done shooting this video, I'm going to load it up on my 3D printer and get that rolling. And then I'm going to take the other one of these weights and I'm going to put it just behind that shock tower. That will help distribute a little bit more weight further towards the rear. It won't put as much lift on the back, but it's still going to, you know, keep most of the force on the front end. With the adjustments to the suspension, I can add pretty much all of the weight back where it was, and I still keep a much better looking wheel arch. So I'm not as concerned with that appearance anymore. I think that I've got that in pretty decent shape. So I'm gonna get those 2 attached up there permanently. And that will be something that you don't actually see until the finale, other than maybe some social media posts. I am going to just stick with running both of these up there rather than, you know, removing or adding or anything like that. There was comments in the last one about trying to add weight to the rear, possibly to add more friction to those rear tires, try and get them spinning. And while adding friction will build more heat and hopefully more tire smoke, it will also build more resistance and more heat in my motor then. I don't think that the amount of friction these things are getting against the ground is going to be an issue at this point, especially with the slightly more balanced weight bias. But overall, the tires are getting plenty warm in the center to actually get them smoking. We're still gonna have to kind of play some trickery with the, you know, help of the exhaust smoke that we have, you know, coming out in that area. That's why I ducted the exhaust where I did, so that it helps the appearance of tire smoke. I could have taken it all the way to the back, but that wouldn't have helped with the look that I've got going. And I'm sure Matt's caught on to that, and I'm guessing that he will have something similar to that before too long. It obviously added to the look enough that I have to think that he's going to follow suit there. Now, as I mentioned in the last video, I did get the motor too hot the last time. It still runs just fine. It sounds maybe a little bit different, but I'm not going to go through a bunch of steps of trying to add a bunch of airflow. This vehicle isn't going to be moving fast at any point. It's basically at a standstill. And while maybe a little bit of circulation through like some windows could help, I'm definitely not going to cut out a windshield or the rear glass. I just think that that would take away from the look way too much to, for the benefit that I would get of even keeping the motor alive. So I'm just gonna leave that as it is. If I decide to really stretch it, maybe I'll cut out the side windows, but that's gonna be it. I think we're going to do a little bit of tweaking with the actual fuel that we use to try and help the appearance of smoke and things like that as well. Beyond that, I've got a couple of other things that I plan to do. At this point, I think that I've got a healthy enough lead to try and just keep tuning and tweaking with the setup that I have rather than trying to just do something completely different. I think that Matt's gonna be playing a little bit of catch up, and hopefully I can keep tuning and tweaking, improving what I've got here over the next couple of weeks to make sure that I lock this one in. I think that Matt's gonna give the four-wheel drive approach maybe a little bit more effort before he tries to just switch to this type of setup, which I can understand that was his goal from the start, so maybe he'll stay there, maybe he won't, not sure, we'll see. Either way, I'm pretty happy with the plan that we've got at this point. I do have a couple of other things that I would like to do, specifically in the rear area by those wheel wells. Now, at this point, we know that I've got that big aluminum shroud to keep the center portion of the chassis blocked off from the rear wheel wells. And I'm thinking that I may want to expand this rear shrouding to try and keep the tire smoke and exhaust smoke at that point focused more into an actual wheel well type appearance. So I may put more of a rear deck in the back even, and then try and enclose it even further to just form some sort of actual wheel well. Once I really just start to get the tires spinning, you can see a large amount of white exhaust help the actual look of the tire smoke. And then once you get into the higher RPMs, you kind of get a 50-50 mix of exhaust and tire. The passenger side gets almost no exhaust look, so you can tell how much smoke is coming off when you look at the passenger side a little bit closer than you can tell from the driver's side. These Hoon tires do get a little bit of smoke coming off of. This is not an 80-mile-an-hour truck like the truck that these things came off of that rolls a pretty decent amount of smoke. So unless I was to really get this thing geared super high and try and keep that motor alive to get even more wheel speed out of it, I'm only going to get so much smoke out of the tires. So we're going to have to play around with what we've got here to try and make the appearance of tire smoke even more prevalent. And I do think that we can do some tire saucing to help kind of accentuate what these things are going to do. Now, I think we've all heard of the old school drag racer style of bleach boxing, where actual bleach is used on the ground to then get the tires rolling the thicker, whiter smoke. That might be something. I've also seen a couple of ideas that may help me by putting together a number of chemicals to make it much more apparent. So we'll see if it works. We're going to give that a try. We'll see if we ruin a set of tires or debeat a set of tires with this concoction that is going on. At this point, I'm just going to try and throw everything we can at the final video and just hope that in the end, that one has everything in it that we need. There is a chance for the last video even that we may add something that helps these tires get even a little bit hotter while they're spinning, help them burn themselves down a little bit faster. I've burned a rig to the ground before. I'm gonna try not to do that again. But a win's a win. If nitro motors were more spectacular, I'd keep it pinned until it threw that tiny little connecting rod and piston through the passenger side window. I still do need to address the front suspension. In the last video, I really liked the look of how when I came in and hit the brakes, the whole front kind of dove down. It really reacted to having that much weight up front, but it kind of gave it a realistic, floating look. I was really happy with that. I didn't actually even notice that until I was editing the video and got to kind of see it in a slowed down way and saw how realistic that helped make this vehicle look. So I want to make sure that I still keep some sort of front suspension. I don't want to just lock it out with turnbuckles because I'll completely lose that and it'll kind of make this turn into a wagon appearance. But I do want to make sure that I lock out the amount of suspension travel so I don't have this thing resting completely on the ground with that front splitter. 7 pounds is a lot of weight to add, I'm aware of that, but again, the only purpose of this vehicle for me is to make a burnout video. That is it. and it only has to do it one more time. So in that last one, we'll go for broke, even if that means we're broke at the end of it. If you guys have any other ideas of things that we should add to this thing, just last ditch effort to make sure that we bury the hatchet on the Canadian team, absolutely throw them in the comments below. I've got a couple of weeks to execute all of these items, and that is going to be my main focus. But with that, guys, I've got to get some parts 3D printing. I appreciate you guys watching. Hit the like button if you enjoyed these videos. Subscribe if you're not already. Hit the notification bell so you see the monthly Mayhems as soon as they get uploaded. As always, again, I appreciate you guys watching. We'll see you in 2 weeks for the finale of the InBurno challenge. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.